hit it. And welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation as usual as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort. All right, here we go. What you think about, you will bring about. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. If you liked our opening song, it's called Clarion Call by the Mark Arneson Band, featuring My Adore, and you can download that on any of your favorite music platforms. For those of you that are new, Alzheimer Speaks is about sound information, not just sound bites. We like to have real conversations with real people who are in the trenches. So that might mean somebody living with dementia, diagnosis, family members, business professionals. We've had singers and songwriters and authors and movie directors, you name it. We're all a piece of this community, and so we love to raise awareness on all levels there. I also want to thank our listeners. You guys have been wonderful. Your likes, your clicks, and shares have really spread the word of our work. And I so appreciate you doing that. And I hope you continue to help build a sense of community, collaboration, and comfort. We all need that in this space. And it's so, so important for us to stay connected so we don't feel isolated and alone at all. Now, today we're going to be talking with a couple of gals in the senior housing industry. And we're going to be talking about disruption in memory care and COVID and all that kind of fun stuff. But before I open it up and introduce you to them, I want to remind you that we've been doing this show for many years. So you can go back into our archives and listen to anything at any time. Some of our recent past shows, we just had Joe Brazil on. He wrote a book called Living with Thunder. He cared for his wife with early onset and some teenage kids as well. We had Chris Brinkler on, who is the CEO of Mind VR, which is a virtual reality program that's just fascinating. We've had the Motion Picture and TV Foundation on. And Jack Russell was really interesting. He's caring for his daughter who has dementia, who is now living in a community. And he talks about the circle of care, the support network that they built up. And so we interviewed quite a few people from his daughter's children to some of his other children and friends and the community she lives in. It's really quite fascinating on how everything is pulling together. Now, next week, we're going to have author Terry Baumgardner on. And we're going to talk with two caregivers who actually I went to school with, and they're going to share their own personal story. So I'm really looking forward to that. I want to give a shout out to a couple of memory cafes that I help facilitate. One is Artist Way, and they're located in Woodbury, Minnesota. But, you know, nowadays you don't have to be in that area because everything is virtual. So the next Memory Cafe will be December 16th at 1 o'clock Central Time. They meet the third Wednesday of every month, and anyone is welcome to join that. And then Arthur's Memory Cafe we do on the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at 1 o'clock. If you're interested in either of those, please reach out to me. I'd be more than glad to talk with you on that. And then I have to give a shout out to Dementia Action Alliance. And their website is daanow.org. They are doing 2 free Zoom programs. One is for people who are living with dementia and are at home, and the other is for people who are living with dementia, but they're in like an assisted living. Both of those programs are free. Again, you can go to daanow.org. Also, Coro Health is still allowing people to download 2 of their apps free of charge during COVID. And one is called Music First. The other is Coro Faith, and that is CoroHealth.com. And let's see. Memory Cafe directory, if you're looking to connect, Dave has pulled them all together in 5 different countries, and you can find the ones that are virtual and open to all. Just go to memorycafe.com. And then we just launched, Dave and I together, just launched Dementia Map, which is a global resource directory. And it's very easy to use. We're in the initial stages, but we invite you to participate both as a vendor who has resources, products, or tools that you want to share, or just, your family, maybe you're a person who just got diagnosed, maybe you work in the industry, but you're looking for resources. Just go to dementiamap.com for that. And then lastly, we're just going to hear from the Foot Bar Walker really quick, and then we'll be back with our guest.
Introducing the life-changing Foot Bar Walker.
I'm Peggy from Danville, Kentucky, and I'm 91 years old. The Foot Bar Walker revolutionized my care of George. The saving that I made from having to put him in a nursing home came to about $192,000. The Foot Bar Walker opens and closes just like a standard walker. The only thing that is different is the top bar and the foot bar. Does that ever make a difference?
Does someone you love use a walker? Do they struggle to get up from a seated position? Are you a caregiver dealing with physical pain and stress as you help your patient? The Foot Bar Walker was designed to assist not only the patient, but also the caregiver. Patients have more control standing up, and no lifting from the caregiver is required. See how it works at thefootbarwalker.com. That's thefootbarwalker.com. Peggy, would you recommend the Foot Bar Walker?
Do I ever? I would not be in the health that I'm in today at this age had it not been for the Foot Bar Walker.
Well, welcome back. Let's get to our guest today. We're going to have a fun conversation with Jennifer Zachman, who is the Executive Director at Okalee, and she's been with Cassia since September of 2019, and she has also worked in the senior care industry for about 10 years. So welcome, Jennifer. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you, Lori?
Doing good. Just hanging in there. I keep looking out the window and can't believe we're in December in Minnesota and no snow, though. That's thrown me for a little bit of a loop.
I know. My children are begging for snow.
I know. My daughter posted a picture of the house, and we've got it all decorated, with all these blow-ups. I said, but it just looks weird with no snow.
Right.
Well, let me introduce your sidekick here. Holly Williams is a nurse, and she is the Director of Health Services at Okalee. And Holly has been a legacy Elim employee, having worked for Elim and Cassia for almost 10 years in a variety of roles. So welcome, Holly. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm interested in having this conversation. I always ask all of my guests one question in the beginning. And Holly, I'm going to throw this out to you first, and that is, have you been personally touched by dementia in your circle of friends or family?
I have. Actually, my grandmother just recently passed away about 6 months ago. She was diagnosed early on in life. She was 58 years old when she was diagnosed, and she was fortunate to live to 72. Lots of struggles trying to manage her at home with my grandfather, to getting her into assisted living, and then ultimately having hospice come on board and support us in that manner. And we are very fortunate that she was in a great place, and we were all surrounding her as she passed.
Oh, wonderful. I'm sorry to hear that she passed, but it sounds like she had a great support system in the meantime there. Jennifer, how about you? Have you been personally touched by dementia?
I have. My grandmother also had dementia. I would say her symptoms, her memory loss started showing probably in her late 50s, early 60s, and she lived to be 82. So she passed about 6 years ago. Kind of same story with Holly. It was very challenging trying to keep her safe at home, and then moving her to assisted living, which she was very, very reluctant to do. And then eventually getting her into memory care. So it was a tough struggle. And, you know, my mom would always say, I just wish she could be one of those happy ladies in memory care that, you know, they don't really know what's going on, but all they're doing is smiling. She struggled big time. So yes, I have been.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Everybody's journey is a little bit different. You know, my mom, for the most part, she lived with it for 30 years. She basically started having symptoms in her mid-50s and then passed away in her 80s as well. And I remember people saying, well, she can't have it. They don't live that long. And I'm like, well, you know, come on over to my house and I'll beg to differ with you, you know, on that whole process. Holly, I'm going to throw this one to you first. And that is, I want to talk about care plans and how they're developed. And you know, I think the general public hears about care plans, but they don't really know what they mean and how are they customized to individuals.
Sure. So actually, it mostly starts with Jenny. So Jenny kind of starts off with that marketing call. People, you know, reach out to her and are seeking for either, most of the time they think assisted living, and we kind of determine if memory care is more appropriate based off of what we see, because sometimes families don't always see what we see, or they think something that is very abnormal is normal for that person. So once Jenny kind of goes through with them and they decide to, you know, proceed to move to Okalee, then I sit down with that loved one. We go through kind of what they're seeing with the loved one, the challenges, and the support that they're wanting, because there's always something, you know, missing or a safety feature that usually brings them to a memory care. So I like to talk about goals that they have, which often involves like getting someone in an activity or care related. A lot of the times we're seeing like showers. They're not, you know, they're struggling to get them once a week in the shower. So we want to make sure that we're going to meet all of their needs. And I always say this is a beautiful, perfect care plan of how we're going to take care of your, you know, loved one. And then a day in, we realize that none of this is going to work and we might have to change it. So it's something that's always fluent and not set in stone.
And I would, you know, say to what Holly was talking about, you know, that first phone call with me is kind of, it's amazing to hear when you are living with a loved one who has dementia, or you're taking care of somebody that has dementia. It's always kind of shocking to them to what's normal for their parents, and then thinking, you know, oh, my parent could probably do assisted living, when you've worked in this industry for so long and you know that that is not a safe practice for someone in assisted living, or, you know, knowing that this move is going to confuse your parent, and so we don't know if they'll be safe. So I think everybody just, you know, when you're in it every day, those things become normal for your parent. But when it comes to dementia, I don't think anything is quote unquote normal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I definitely know what you mean on there. And I do think it's important to have those conversations with families, because again, families aren't always realistic, or sometimes there are certain people in the family that get it, and then other members of the family, they don't see anything that's wrong at all, or could be a safety issue. Holly, what kind of training do you do for your memory care staff, and is it significantly different from other levels of care that you have?
Yes, it is definitely different. We have guidelines per the state of Minnesota that we have to follow, but then also we have a Cassia standard. You know, we never want an employee walking into a situation that they don't feel comfortable with. And we see, obviously, in memory care, there's more behaviors, higher care needs. So we do a lot of, like, online-based training where they're going to, you know, learn more about the disease, and different ways to interact with people and approaches. But then based off of the care plan, we also sit down and do one-to-ones. I think a big piece is just kind of communication on what aides are seeing to what families seeing to what maybe a nurse on our level is seeing, and determining, what training might still be needed, because we might think we have everything covered and then someone new comes in and it's something that, all the other residents aren't experienced, maybe behavior-wise or how to take care of someone. So we always want to personalize our training to that resident.
Which is wonderful to hear. A lot of people and a lot of companies out there say they do, but I don't always see it playing out all the time. And so it's really important for families to feel comfortable with that connection and, what is actually happening within a community. Jenny, was there anything that you wanted to add as far as training in your views of how families look at things, and same with staff? How do they receive things?
Yeah, I would say, like you had just mentioned, Lori, so many communities out there will say that, we meet somebody where they're at and we train our staff on how to deal with the individual, and then you don't see that. I can honestly say that with Holly and our staff here, that is something that is a major focus for us. We have so many, the residents that we do have in memory care are all very different. You have some people that are still physically very active that are still going for runs. If they could get out there, they'd go for a 3-mile jog. We have some people who are more sedentary. And I can honestly tell you that our staff have been trained so well by Holly that they really do focus on each one of those individual needs and try to meet them where they're at and to make those things happen for them.
Which is wonderful. That and that can be really tricky to understand sometimes. I think both as staff and as a family member. I remember when my mom was in a community, sometimes I didn't always understand why staff was doing what they were doing initially, and then it was like, oh, well, that does make a lot of sense, because they were really geared to, was she safe, was she happy, was she pain free, versus a lot of family is right or wrong, kind of basis in correcting stories. When we're new, we just don't know, when we're stepping into this space. Right. So it's so important when communities can help lift us up and understand, why things are done the way they are. I found even helpful learning in a lot of communities, again, don't share this information. I think they think some of them think the public knows it or they wouldn't be interested, but even in terms of why they pick the types of furniture that they pick, or the color of the plates, or all of those things, when it comes to contrast, so that somebody can see better, so somebody can hear better, those things, when we teach families, then they can apply those not only when they're there, but when they take somebody out and consider, different things to make their outing or their visit better for all with that. So I think that's so important. Holly, I'll throw this one to you again. In terms of programming there, what do you guys offer your memory care residents? And again, how is it different?
Sure. So obviously right now in our world of COVID, everything's different from when we opened in January of 2020. We had, great programming set up and we really knew what we wanted to do. And then here comes COVID kind of full force in March, and we had to adjust that. So we have a wonderful activity director, Julie, who has really gotten to know everybody and has made those adjustments that the state wants us to, and just to make sure that everybody is safe. So we are very hands-on right now, just kind of keeping that feel of the hands-on as much as we can, but ensuring we're keeping socially distanced and PPE and cleaning and everything like that. But we have a great group down there. We have a tight group of 7 right now, and we are very centered towards them. So our programming right now, we have, a farmer down there, a housewife, an accountant who is down there, a businessman. They all have this desire to have a purpose. Everything that they're doing, they love to get and do little small activities or puzzles, but they want to know that they're kind of making a difference for the people there. They want to take care of each other or just in the community. So they've made cards for the students going back to school and giving them support. They have been able to just kind of do different small tasks for each other. So we're just, I don't even know how to really explain it. We're just focusing on them right now. We don't want them to decline at all, which you can see right now with COVID, that a lot of memory care's residents are starting to decline or they're seeing a higher rate of death. We have not had one of our memory care people decline or a death in there, which we are so, so proud of. So we're just kind of transitioning our program to them and individualizing it and making sure that they are happy and safe and just comfortable in their home.
Oh, wonderful.
I would definitely say that. I think Holly, all of us, the leadership team, our aides, our dietary staff, our front desk, receptionist, everybody has really gone above and beyond to take care of the residents' needs, not just memory care, assisted living, but especially in memory care, knowing that those residents are in a secure unit. Their families aren't being allowed to visit as much or as often as they were. We are trying to practice social distancing. We are trying to keep them safe, but at the same time, realizing that these people need people, they need faces, they need touch, they need activity. And I just think, our staff has done such a phenomenal job at coming up with creative ideas of how we can still keep them active, still give them purpose while keeping them safe. It's been really great to see. We've heard so much about decline in deaths in the communities that surround us, and we have not had any.
That's fantastic. I know one of the things that I noticed was the first 2 to 2.5 months, everyone was saying everyone was adapting pretty well. And then that 2.5, 3 month period hit. And I just heard so many communities saying, boy, they're just, all of a sudden there's just been this drop in decline and then many passing as well. And I found it fascinating that, everybody's kind of in their own little bubble, and yet that was the marker, that 2.5 to 3 months was what I was hearing was really, really common. So I think it's great that you've managed to be able to stay connected. Now, it sounds like from what you said, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, that, because some communities have actually made everybody stay in their room, even in memory care. Have you guys done that? It sounded like they were still able to kind of get along as a group and do things as a group.
Do you want to answer that, Holly, or would you?
Yep, I can answer that. So at certain points, based off of kind of the recommendations of what the state's saying and the CDC, we were at the point where we were keeping them in their room as much as possible, and it was more individual activities or going into their room, the staff members, just because of our memory care and kind of the people that are down there. Our meals, when we had to deliver them, we would have either like doors open or they would maintain bigger than 6 feet away from each other. But right now we're back to the communal dining with the recommendations from MDH. So they're 6 feet away from each other. They're at individual tables, like our chairs are facing a certain way. So if, someone coughs, it's all going in one direction. So we have all of the guidelines that the state currently has for us. We're meeting those or going above and beyond what they have to keep them safe. When they're out in the common areas, they are wearing masks if able, and we're helping put them on and take them off if they need to. Some people, just based off of their diagnosis, we can't put a mask on them. So, they're farther away from somebody or they're not participating in certain activities. But everything that we're doing, it's have their own individual activity to complete, or what, if they are, they do this kind of picture bingo. They each have their own chips that are with their name on them. They get them every single time. They're washed every time, but it's not like, Jenny's going to get my bingo chip. So it's just everything's very separate to not cross-contaminate.
And I'm sorry, Holly.
Nope, you can go ahead.
I want to say we have some pretty great family members who are very understanding about the fact that, even though we do have these essential caregiver rules in place, that family could, potentially be essential caregivers, that we're being kind of going above and beyond and being pretty strict with it, because we are so much trying to protect our residents of memory care. As we know, COVID can run like wildfire through a memory care unit. The family members that are considered essential and that have been able to come in are so good about wearing their PPE. Same with our staff. Our staff always wearing their shields, their goggles, their face mask, whatever that is. So I feel like everybody's just really kind of gone, because we know how vulnerable our memory care can be and is. Everybody's just gone above and beyond to protect them.
Well, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. Now, with dementia, sometimes there will be some disruptive behaviors that come, and I like to call them reactions versus behaviors, but I know our audience probably still uses the term behaviors. How do you guys deal with that? And Holly, I'll throw this one to you first.
Definitely. I think that behaviors are a large part of the memory care, kind of what we see on a daily basis. And really it comes down to your approach and redirecting that person. I always tell our aides, you don't want to overreact to something, even though it might be a really big, behavior reaction. Like you said, you don't want to approach them kind of in a quick, harsh manner, like you need to stop that. You got to be gentle and figure out what works for that person. Usually it's always something wrong in that resident's eyes. Maybe their routine was different, or something in their room was missing. They might be experiencing pain, or just in general kind of sundowning, that increased confusion moments. So you just got to kind of figure out what works for that person. And we do in our care planning, after talking with the family, I put in kind of what behaviors they see and what works for them. Right now we have a gentleman who has some very sexual behaviors, makes some jokes and just very inappropriate at times. And the son said the only thing that works is to literally tell him that is inappropriate, you need to stop. And, at first they was like, I don't want to say that to him, that's kind of crossing the line. And the family's like, I'm telling you, it's the only thing that would work. Well, we tried it the first day. Yep, he looked at you, apologized, and then moved past the sexual joke. So now, it's just kind of finding what works, talking with the family, and honestly, it's not like black and white what's going to work. What worked today isn't going to work tomorrow sometimes, so we kind of have all these tricks in the bag and got to pull out what we can to alleviate these behaviors.
Yeah, that's very true, and I think that's one thing that's really hard for families to understand. What do you mean? Well, it worked before. Why wouldn't it work again? And it's just the way the brain works. Sometimes it's connecting and in sync, and other times it's just not. And that's a huge thing, I think, for families to really get their hands around and really truly understand that. And it's not about being perfect. It's really about just trying to be progressive and really in tune with what are their needs. And usually when there's this behavior mode, I always I kind of laugh at that, because it's like, I don't like it when someone tells me I have a behavior, because that's not a attribute that I want to have. But yet really it's a reaction. And when it comes to somebody with dementia, my belief is that's their way to communicate something's off. I don't know what it is. I just I can't put maybe words to it, depending on where they are in the progression. But I'm trying to tell you I'm not comfortable. something is off here, and you need to learn to read my nonverbals and figure out what that might be. What's going on. Jennifer, did you want to add anything to working with disruptive behaviors or reactions?
No, I think Holly pretty much covered it. In thinking of some of those reactions / behaviors, I think keeping in mind that that person, this is not who they are, and in a past life they would have known that was inappropriate to say. That dementia removes that filter, removes that filter that tells us, no, you can't say that. So just knowing how to react to that, what the right words to use are, trying not to be offended. We've had, unfortunately, had to have conversations with staff on, it sometimes hurts your feelings. The things that you can be told to you, but that's not who that person is or their real feelings towards you. So I think Holly does a great job at that. Our staff does a great job at it. The one gentleman in particular I can think of, I've seen such that Holly was talking about, such a change in him as he's been here. He with the reminders of not using those words, not using that language, and being appropriate, he now actually is kind of stopping himself before he gets to his joke. So they've just done an excellent job at really guiding him and, reverting him from making those kinds of comments.
Yep. Which, and again, with everybody, it's going to be a little bit different there. I'd also like to talk about COVID-19. And, I can't believe we've been in this for, 9 months now. And doesn't look like there's any real, end in sight, even though the vaccines and stuff are coming. It sounds like it's still going to be a complicated rest of the winter and even into spring with all of this. And I'm wondering if you can talk about how it has affected your staff, your senior residents, and the families as a whole. And Holly, if you want to start, and then we'll have Jennifer pop in.
Yeah, it has been hard. Like even just I always say as the main nurse, like it is hard. It's very tiring. You hear about burnout a lot. Sometimes I feel like, I need to make it through the day. There's just so much kind of going on. So myself, I'm just feeling it. But we're very lucky as our company is just always there to support us. And even at Okalee, we have everyone to support each other, to kind of get that time to refresh and, get yourself back on the pace that you need to get on to make sure we're taking care of everyone. So that comes from our home office to our leadership down to, our aides. We always want to make sure that we're caring for each other so we can care for our residents the best that we can. With that said, I know that the families, a lot of them, we have essential caregivers coming in, but just in general, we had visitors before and people coming in to do smaller cares for their family member. They're feeling the stress of it too because they can't get in here like they wanted to. So we're just seeing a lot of emotion, which rightfully so. This has just been so hard on everybody. Everybody's over it, but we got to kind of get over that hump and push on to hopefully spring, like you said, where we can see that clarity moment. So we are just communicating. Jenny does a wonderful job at making sure our families are aware of when we're testing and what our results are, any changes. Our home office does family Zooms, which we have some coming up, just to give updates. We just want to be an open book because I think it's scary for everyone right now and not being here. They just need to know what's going on. So we have definitely gotten better, I think, with communication. That's kind of a high point for us right now that I think COVID gave us, and that's something that I feel we will continue past COVID. I don't know, Jenny, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think, with you, obviously everything you said, I agree 100%. I think right now the key is communication, family communication, resident communication. always letting them know, I tell residents and families when I get new information, I pass it on to them immediately, so that they know I'm not trying to keep anything secret. Prior to the numbers going up so high around us, we were allowing visitors into the building by appointment, and they were, having to go directly to their loved one's apartment. As numbers went up around us in our surrounding counties, the visitation stopped. So I think that was really hard. Here we had been kind of locked down, then they finally get to start seeing their mom or dad or grandma again, and then we're locked down again. I'm always making sure when I'm communicating with families to tell them how grateful I am for their understanding and their patience, because this has been so hard on all of our staff, on our aides, on leadership. I've had many of angry phone calls, or frustrated phone calls from family members because they want to come in and they can't, or they want to take their loved one out. And at this point, to do that, your loved one has to quarantine for 14 days. So just all of these new rules and regulations. But I can say as time has gone on and we've seen more and more deaths and more numbers of positive COVIDs, I feel as though family members are finally accepting that the COVID-19 pandemic is real. Seniors are unfortunately the largest numbers of deaths that we are having. And now, instead of people being frustrated with us and all the rules, I'm getting more people that are thankful to us for keeping their family members safe. And that's been very rewarding.
Yeah, I know. It's so hard. I have friends who have a loved one in a community and they can't see them, and they are so fearful. They're so fearful. And I mean, those with spouses, I know I've talked with them and just in tears, and they're like, will they remember me? Will they be alive? Will I be alive? And all these massive questions of huge magnitude in terms of, trying to be connected and what if, everyone's doing that. And so the more I think you can communicate as a, with families is so important. Very important. Yeah. Now, do you guys allow cameras and stuff in where they could kind of zoom in? I know some people have set up in some communities an iPad where they can just pop in and talk with their loved one at any time. And even if the person in the memory care can't talk, I know it gives them great relief that they can just pop in and see how they're doing in their room. Do you allow that?
We do allow like electronic monitoring, we call it. You can, you're free to put a camera in their room. For us, it's just more or less too, we want to maintain, their dignity. So we don't have it anywhere where they could see any cares being completed with that. For a lot of our residents, we've noticed we've tried like Zoom calls with their family members. Sometimes it can be more confusing and agitating. So it kind of depends on the person. So that's person to person right now, kind of what's going on. A lot of the times our residents really like to receive cards and different things to look at and hold. So we have quite a few that do get cards weekly from their family or something sent to them. But we're always free to set up visits if the family wants to. So it's just kind of up to them and what they prefer.
Visits as far as Zoom visits, you mean, Holly?
Yeah, Zoom visits.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And we are, we've had this on this really nice December weather and November weather for that matter. So our memory care is at ground level. So a lot of families have been continuing to do short window visits, which has been really nice.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, that's the one thing that is nice with us not having the snow and stuff yet, and it hasn't gotten overly cold here. That definitely helps in terms of being able to see one another, even if it's through a window. I know for some people in memory care, they don't understand what are you doing outside? And they're waving people, come on in,
yeah.
come on in, get out of the cold, you know. And
yeah,
and
yeah, and that's kind of what Holly was saying too. It's like the Zoom calls and stuff too sometimes can be very confusing. So it is. It's kind of a resident by resident, you know, decision of what's going to be easiest for them and not cause them any agitation or confusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that gets a little bit tough there. Anything else that you guys wanted to cover that we haven't covered in terms of what Okalee has to offer, both those living there and families?
I mean, I guess I would just, you know, end with what Okalee has to offer with just, you know, the phenomenal care that I've seen in this community with our aides, our servers, Holly. You know, I can't even say enough of how well cared for our residents are. Even, you know, your memory care residents, assisted living, even independent living who don't necessarily receive, you know, nursing cares, obviously, but just the kind of home that and the kind of community that we've created for our residents here and the standard of care that Holly has for her staff. She goes above and beyond what I have seen, and really our aides abide by that, and just they want to go above and beyond as well for our residents.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, that's absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you ladies taking the time with me today to kind of share what you're doing. It sounds like you guys are doing great work. And people can find you by going to your website, which is www.Okalee Senior Living, and that's OKALEE seniorliving.com. And you can always email them too. You can email Jennifer and then Zachman, ZACHMAN at cassialife.org, and that's CASSIA life.org. And then is it okay to give out a phone number too for you guys?
It sure is.
Okay, so what I've got here is 763-762-5400. 763-762-5400. And again, thank you so much, ladies, for your time and the work and effort and understanding and care that you put forth with your compassionate service to those in memory care and those that serve them.
Well, thank you so much for having us on today. It was a pleasure, and we're always happy to talk about Okalee and what it is that we do.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again for being with us. And again, to our audience, go ahead and check them out. Again, I want to give a plug for Dementia Map. Again, dementiamap.com. You can find a variety of resources there, or maybe you're interested in being a resource to others. We'd love to talk to you. So just reach out to me at Lori, Lori, at alzheimersspeaks.com, and we'll get you up and running. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon. Bye now.
Hi, everyone. This is Meredith from the Senior Fitness with Meredith podcast, where I discuss all things for seniors, from fitness, your health and wellness journeys, how to be all over strong and beyond. I also have my mini podcast called Motivation with Meredith. It's a great, quick motivational pick-me-up for your days. Join me, listen now, search for Senior Fitness with Meredith on your favorite podcast platform.